I welcome each and every one of you to today's podcast, Let's Talk CX. Let's Talk CX is going to be a podcast series by CXPA Africa. CXPA is a premier global non-profit organization that is dedicated to ensuring that customer experience management practices are advanced everywhere, but even more so, its mission is to support CX professionals like myself, Rebekah, and two amazing ladies you'll be meeting shortly. I'm sure you can see them on the screen, Yasmin and Dr. Lucy, and every CX professional around the world in sharing and learning and inspiring and growing through their careers. In Africa, this mission is embraced with a commitment to building a local community of dedicated CX professionals that will advocate for the customer's voice in their organizations, in their path, and in every area of influence. So today, these professionals are transforming their environments and making a lasting impact across the continent. You're going to enjoy a very interesting topic. You don't want to miss it one bit. So over to you, Yasmin and Dr. Lucy. I can't wait to hear the rest of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Rebekah. Good morning, everyone. Dr. Lucy Kiruthu, welcome, and thank you for joining our podcast where we discuss topics related to customer experience, predominantly within the African context. Today, insights will be shared on why ROI in customer experience matters and how we can measure ROI. But before we get started, I would like to share our guest's impressive background with our listeners. Dr. Lucy Kiruthu is a management practitioner, customer experience thought leader, and business strategist on a mission to inspire positive change in business and society. Over the past 2 decades, Lucy has led over 100 CX projects across 11 countries and trained over 12,000 business associates in customer experience. Lucy is a certified customer experience professional and also holds a doctorate in business administration, specifically strategic management. Lucy is a founding member of not only Evolve CX and the Customer Experience Academy Africa, but also the Institute of Customer Experience in Kenya. She's also the local coordinator of the global body of customer experience professionals. These are great achievements, Lucy. I'm sure that it keeps you extremely busy. And it's also clear that your experience has given you a unique perspective on why ROI in customer experience matters and how we can measure ROI. So I'm really excited to dive into the topic today. And thank you so much again for being here.
Thank you, and ready for the conversation, Yasmin.
So please share with us, why is ROI in CX? What is ROI in CX, and why is it important for business leaders to consider ROI?
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Yasmin. And before we can even talk about why ROI is important, it becomes important for us to even ask ourselves, what's ROI? And sometimes in business, when we use abbreviations, not everybody understands that ROI simply stands for return on investment. And this is a key business term that many businesses use. It's a key measurement used to evaluate the profitability or the effectiveness or the success of an investment, because you're really looking at what is the return on that investment. And how do you then do that? You look at how much are you investing vis-a-vis what are you gaining from that particular investment. So how much is the investment costing? How much are you gaining? And from a customer experience perspective, ROI really measures how the customer experience initiatives that we are having are contributing to business outcomes. And that can be, is the investment contributing to an increase in revenues? Is the investment contributing to an increase in customer retention rates? Is the investment making us have a cost saving? And when I think about ROI in customer experience, it really helps to answer the question, is investing in customer experience worth it? Yasmin, I don't know whether that fully answers your question before you even think about why does it matter,
Absolutely. So it does answer the question. And I mean, as we know, ROI is measured across business units. But what we have found that in certain businesses, the value of CX spend is actually questioned. So how can CX professionals win leadership support for CX investment as well as CX resources by linking it back to the overall ROI within the business that gets measured?
Yeah, and it's important as CX professionals for us to win leadership buy-in when it comes to the investments that we are making. And of course, the starting point is really to show the leadership that ROI in customer experience really matters, because customer experience has such a direct impact on business performance. And I'm hoping that all of us, all listening in, can be able to tell that for sure when we invest in customer experience, we are doing so that we can see a direct impact on their business performance, whether we are putting up that contact center, whether we are automating a process, whether we are investing in a customer relationship management system, whether it's a queue management system, whether it's a feedback platform, or even a voice of the customer, a system, or even when we invest in skilling our people, we should be able to ask ourselves, are we then being able to see a return on these investments? And businesses that invest in customer experience often see an increase in customer loyalty. They see a reduction in customer attrition in terms of the customers that are leaving, because when you're investing in customer experience, you're investing to drive loyalty. You're investing to drive satisfaction. You're investing so that your customers can spend more. You're investing so that your customers can make referrals. There's an interesting study that I came across by Forrester that showed that organizations that are really, really customer obsessed, they are growing 2.5 times faster than their peers. And therefore, it's evident that when customers have a great experience, they are willing to spend more, they are willing to stay longer, they are willing to recommend us. And that's why when then it comes to winning the leadership support for the customer experience investments that we need to make, we need to start by speaking the language of the leadership. And what's the language of the leadership? We need to talk about numbers and how they impact business performance. And when we think about a lot of people in leadership, in business leadership, they see customer experience as a soft concept. Many have not really been able to understand how it directly
Absolutely.
yeah. Many leaders are not able to really see that customer experience leads directly to revenues or to cost savings or to competitive advantage. In fact, there are a lot of misconceptions about customer experience return on investment, where some of the CX investments are seen not to give an immediate return, or like measuring customer experience ROI is impossible. All a good product is good enough. When you think about the case of Nokia and Apple, it was all about the product and the experience. Nokia was so focused on the great product that they had,
Yeah.
but Apple decided to focus on the entire experience. So when it comes to showing our leaders, our business leaders, how important customer experience is, or how it's going to have a return on the investment done, we must then be able to link customer experience to business goals. We must be able to show what are some of the quick wins. I know of an organization that had a simple initiative on queue management system, and they cut down the number of complaints. It reduced, dissatisfaction levels, and as a result, business performance, was started improving. We must also leverage data. There's so much data around customer experience. How can we draw some insights from the industry and show that an investment in customer experience is able to lead to financial growth, or it's able to lead to a cost saving? So there's a lot, actually, Yasmin. There's a lot.
Yeah, so Lucy, everything that you said is extremely relevant. But the one thing that stands out for me is that there has to be CX representation in that boardroom where key decisions are being made. Because quite often in some businesses, you'll still find a lack of CX leadership, a CX director, or an exco member for that matter. And there isn't anyone really driving that CX agenda, linking it to ROI, linking it to loyalty, as well as sales opportunity and overall sentiment of the customers or clients that these businesses deal directly with. So, what is your view on the importance of CX leadership within the boardroom?
When I think about businesses and how they run their strategy, it becomes very important for us, first of all, to ask ourselves, what is our strategy? What are our strategic priorities? And once we are clear on the strategy, then we ask ourselves, what is the sort of structure that will support us in the implementation of that strategy? And therefore, a lot of times in organizations where you find that there is no even voice of the customer in the boardroom, or there is no key leader who is representing the customer in the boardroom, is because, first of all, probably it's not even very clear in their strategic priorities where the customer is at. A lot of organizations are thinking revenues, but they're not asking themselves, where are those revenues going to come from? And therefore, because of that gap in strategy, then we find a gap in structure where customer experience is just a small department tucked somewhere in marketing, sometimes tucked somewhere in operations. But I feel CX professionals have a major role to play in terms of elevating the voice of the customer in organizations and seeking a boardroom representation of the customer. If you're going to be the voice of the
Correct,
customer in the
yes.
organization, that voice needs to be heard in the boardroom. And we can be able to do that by influencing, being there, offering ourselves for those strategy workshops and really asking the hard questions. Where is the customer in all this? As we discuss revenues, as we discuss profitability, where is the customer in all this? How are we going to hold on to our customers? How will we get new customers by making our customers have a great experience in a way that they are ready and willing to recommend us to others? It's not just having an NPS target. It's really asking ourselves, how many of our customers are ready and willing to refer? Have they referred others to us? So we need to really be able to push back and say, we want that voice of the customer in the boardroom. Yasmin, that's how I look at it. It starts from the strategy and the leadership commitment at the top.
And yeah, 100%. And you mentioned earlier data insights that can assist with understanding the financial return within the CX departments. And what's really important about that is that we all have data from each of those departments. I mean, whether you're in operations, sales, or marketing, there's valuable data that can be dovetailed to get greater insights in terms of the customer needs, customer fluctuations, churn, and where we need to spend, majority of our time in terms of engaging with those customers. So the data generated across those departments are extremely valuable, not only focusing on NPS and CSAT. So my next question is, and I know that you have somewhat answered this question, but how can we directly measure ROI in CX? Because we largely focus on NPS and CSAT, but largely remove all that internal data as well as research data that combined gives us greater insights.
And it's definitely very important that we are able to measure our return on investment in customer experience. If we have an investment that needs to be made, we need to ask ourselves, how are we going to even track, the outcomes from that particular investment? So measuring customer experience return on investment requires that we track financial data, that we track operational data, and that we also track, the experience metrics that many of us are familiar with. And the key is really linking the CX improvements that we are seeing as a result of an investment to the business outcomes. Being able to link our CX investment to revenue growth, being able to ask ourselves, because now our customers are satisfied, or because they are happy, because they are delighted, are they more likely to buy? Are they likely to buy more? And are we able to track
Right.
that because our customers are happy with this investment that we have made, they are buying more or they are referring others? If the customers are happy and they are saying they are ready to refer, are we asking them for those referrals and then being able to track that? So I see revenue growth as one of the ways that we can measure our return on investment in customer experience. Retention rates, in fact, that's a very straightforward one, or the churn rate on the opposite
Correct.
side. A rise in the retention rates means customers are staying longer. It means that as a result of the customers staying longer, we don't have to keep investing in marketing to new customers. Our customers are staying on with us. They're continuing to purchase. There's also another key metric that I know many organizations have been able to use, the customer lifetime value, where you look at how much of a customer contributes to revenue, how much of customer experience contributes to the revenues that are coming from the customers over time. And if customer experience improvements are increasing retention, it means the customer lifetime value of our customers is going up. Customers are staying longer and they are spending more. And of course, the CX metrics, the Net Promoter Score, the CSAT score. But when it comes to tracking these, we don't just want to have a number. We want to be able to track their impact on referrals. We want to be able to track their impact on repeat business and to be able to see how that then links to revenue growth. I know of an organization that was able to, for example, a telecom in Kenya that was able to improve self-service options for their customers, because a lot of their customers really didn't want to call their contact center. And as a result of providing self-service options, they saw a 20% reduction in the support costs, because then it meant that customers were ready and willing to serve themselves. And I believe that that's a quick
It's
example
incredible.
of how a customer experience improvement can have a direct link to business outcomes, reducing the cost to serve. I always think about when organizations have customer complaints and the complaints are many, it means there's a lot of time spent by management. Sometimes even people at the board level. I know organizations where people call the board members when there's a complaint. But when we seek improvements in customer experience to reduce the number of complaints, it means that we are not only receiving fewer calls, but we are becoming more efficient in terms of how we operate. We are reducing the amount of time that the leadership team is spending having to handle customer dissatisfaction. So there's actually a lot around numbers that we need to compute when we are having a customer experience initiative, to then be able to show, even before the investment, to be able to show, what, if we do this, as a result, complaints are going to reduce by 50%. If we do this, the cost of service is going to come down by this particular percentage. And as customer experience professionals, because it becomes important that we understand numbers, we need to be able to compute that. Yeah.
Correct. And the cost saving is very significant. I mean, you talk about the contact center, the reduction in calls, the 20% saving that was achieved with, one of the companies that you mentioned. But it's also, you can link it back to marketing costs. As soon as you know how your customer wants you to engage, you could possibly start cutting back on channels, moving more to digitization instead of print media. So it actually has an impact across many areas of that business, particularly to the cost reduction, improving efficiencies, also optimizing internal processes as well as processes where you directly engage with the customer.
Mm-hmm.
So Lucy, bringing all of this together can be very challenging, because when you're looking at cost savings, determining ROI, and progressing customer experience deliverables, It warrants involvement of multiple individuals in the in a business, excuse me, which obviously then translates into multiple people. So that is one of the challenges, that we as professionals have come across. But what additional challenges would one find in terms of engaging with various departments when it comes to measuring ROI? And what tips do you have for us to overcome these challenges?
Thank you, Yasmin, and definitely measuring return on investment in customer experience can often be challenging. In fact, sometimes I like to look at it more around a return on experience, because there's a return on experience before we can even talk about the return on investment. And one of the biggest challenges that I have seen in organizations, or even with the CX professionals that are trying to show that there's a return on a particular investment that they are trying to get funding for, is that a lot of the benefits in customer experience are indirect, and they're also long term. A lot of times it's not a quick fix that we are going to see as a result of setting up a contact center, or as a result of investing in the automation of a process, or having a CRM in place. And when it comes then how to address these challenges, because organizations are not here just for a year, and therefore you may not be able to see the returns within the year of implementation, is to be able to ask ourselves, how are we tracking trends over time? Instead of expecting immediate results,
Yes.
how can we be able to measure the value and be able to help other departments? Because remember, for example, if you are automating a process, it's not a process that is within customer experience. Is not a complaints management process. Probably it's the key process within our organization. So the question is, how can we measure how that process automation, for example, is going to impact revenues and retention over months, over years, so that you're not forced to just show what will happen in the first month. Another key way of overcoming those challenges, and we've done this with a few of my clients, where we look at comparing the outcomes from two customer groups. And this could be, for example, within a bank, you know that there are certain customer experience improvements that are needed. But instead of, first of all, rolling it out within the entire organization, you roll it out in one branch, for example, and be able then to see, as a result of the improvements that you've done, what are the outcomes. I think a lot of times we call it A/B testing, where you compare two customer
Yes.
groups, one that is experiencing the improvements, one that doesn't have the improvements, and be able to measure the difference. Are the customers spending more? Are the customers giving positive reviews as a result? And another way of really overcoming the challenges is asking ourselves, how can we assign financial values to the customer experience metrics that we are using? For example, you find that an organization is hoping to increase their NPS, let's say from 50 to 60. But how does that translate to revenue? As a result of an improvement in NPS, what are you likely to see? And you can be able to use past data, because I know a lot of organizations are able to track their financial performance year in, year out. A lot of organizations are tracking their experience year in, year out. Do those two seem, is there a parallel between the two? Of course, we need to even ask ourselves, how are we measuring our customer experience? Because a lot of times there are gaps in terms of how we are measuring, in terms of how we are sampling, in terms of whether we are measuring immediately after a transaction, or whether we are making it more of a relational metric. But what is very, very important is, for example, to say, if we improve our NPS by 10%, our revenues are going to improve by 20%, based on the projections that we've done in the past. And finally, I think another way of really being able to handle the challenges that we experience is data. Invest in data analytics. Be able to connect customer experience to the overall financial performance of the organization. But there has been, if an organization has not been able to do that, even as a customer experience professional, you have not been able to connect customer experience to financial outcomes, it becomes very difficult for you to show a return on investment. So the first starting point is really to look at how do you
Correct.
connect customer experience to the financial outcomes. Because remember, if I was to go back to the boardroom, what are the conversations that are happening in the boardroom? It's about revenues and cost and profitability. And we need to be able to speak into that language. I know of a retail organization that was able to say, you know what, when we see an increase in our NPS, it means our sales are also increasing. You know, they were saying for every 1 point increase in their NPS, their sales were rising by 2%, which then meant that it was very, very evident that there was a return on the investments that they were making in terms of their customer journey, in terms of just tightening their customer journey, making it as seamless as possible, making it a delightful experience end to end. And that way, then the organization was ready and willing to invest more in customer experience improvement because it was evident that the better we become in our customer experience, the more we are selling. So I think that's how we can be able to handle those challenges, or even highlighting some of the challenges that really organizations are facing and customer experience professionals are facing in trying to prove their return on investment.
Lucy, absolutely agree with you on that, because it also makes conversations easier around when certain systems and tools are needed to justify the increase in costs around engaging with customers. For example, if you need more seats in a contact center or a CRM tool, and you're able to have a look at that NPS data and correlate that to a sales increase, then it becomes a very valuable discussion in the boardroom because you're able to show the benefits of what's been happening year on year if one were to use all the wealth of data that's available in businesses, to extract all of those numbers. So Lucy, thank you so much. This has been an incredibly valuable conversation, filled with practical insights and also very actionable strategies that, excuse me for that, but CX professionals can actually use in business. Your expertise has definitely shed some light on the key elements on ROI, but also very simply how to implement those ROI initiatives and focus on already existing data and resources rather than increasing expenses early on when trying to justify ROI within a business. So before we wrap up, do you have any final thoughts or key takeaways for us to ensure a successful ROI implementation?
Yeah, and I believe that customer experience is not to be seen as a cost, and being able to show the return on investment of a customer experience initiative is not that difficult. Because when we look at customer experience as a catalyst for business performance, then it becomes something that we want to invest in, a powerful investment that can fuel our growth in the organization, that can deepen our customer loyalty, that can set us apart from the rest in the marketplace. And I believe that businesses that win are those that really put customer experience as the heartbeat of everything that they do, of their strategy, of their leadership commitment, of their innovation, of their processes, of their people, of their performance. And as CX professionals, to be able to win the leadership support, we must speak in terms of business results, and we must be able to blend the powerful data that we have, and the compelling customer stories that we hear every day, and be able to show their real impact. So what I would like to say finally is that based on where your business is at, and by the way, ROI for customer experience is not for just for large organizations, even for small organizations. So start where you are at. Prove what matters for your business when it comes to investing in customer experience, and start to build momentum, momentum that is unstoppable in terms of, if we invest in this customer experience initiative, we are likely to see this. And don't just end it there. because customer experience is about continuous improvement. Keep making sure that the customer experience initiatives are well funded, because in the end, I believe, and it's been very, very evident in the marketplace, that businesses that are staying ahead, businesses that are going to lead into the future, are the ones that put their customers first, are the ones that really are committed to investing in customer experience, are the ones that are able to show that there is a return not only on the investments that they are making, but there is a return on experience. Thank you so much, Yasmin.
Thank you so much for your time, Lucy. We really appreciate it. Rebekah, over to you.
Wow, wow, wow. Thank you so much, ladies. Thank you so much, Yasmin, for probing such a unique topic. I call it unique because historically, you know that people in CX don't want to think about the numbers traditionally. We don't want to think about the balance sheet. We think that profit and loss is for the investment team, sales team, and the finance team. But here we're being asked to level up, and break it down. And thank you so much, Dr. Lucy, for breaking it down to simple terms. If somebody can understand NPS and mystery shopping and quality and CSAT, they definitely will not get lost when you ask them to blend the data with financial data, operational data, revenue, keeping your patterns, customer lifetime value. I have so many lessons, even just from today's podcast. But the biggest takeaway for me, two big takeaways for me actually, is that one, businesses that are customer obsessed are getting are performing 2.5 times better than those that are not. But secondly, are we playing with our data? Are we mining it? Do we understand it? And are we connecting it and linking it to financial data? Thank you so much for those takeaways. And I hope that everybody who's listening in, I hope you had a wonderful time. I know that you had a wonderful time. And if you did enjoy the episode, please do remember to share it, to subscribe and follow us on all our CXPA pages. And together, let's continue to inspire Africa, inspire the globe, inspire everybody out there to understand CX and to join in the conversations. Let's build our CX communities everywhere, at a local level, self-entrepreneurship level, self-employment level, organizational level, at a global level. Thanks, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.